In this week's episode of Berserk, Guts fights against Guts. Guys, you guys are in for a treat. This is one of those once-in-a-blue-moon events. It is a drunk review on Super Kami Guru 9000. You guys are probably wondering, where the fuck am I right now? I'm clearly not in the studio. I'm not at my house right now. I'm reviewing this week's episode of Berserk in New Orleans, otherwise known as Louisiana, and it's home to a lot of alcohol. So we consumed a lot of alcohol, so I'm going to review Berserk for you. This is already going really great, as you can probably imagine. But the good thing is this week's episode was incredibly simple. It was incredibly simple, and it was a feast for the eyes. This is an episode that totally went hand in hand with the eclipse of the series. In terms of its imagery, it was very vivid, and it was very creepy. And frankly, my friends, it was pretty goddamn fucked up. You know, the Berserk series loves its rape scenes. Well, guess what? This one's got it in droves. If you wanted to see a lot of trolls raping women, this is the episode for you. Luckily, they managed to censor almost every single scene in the series. If you want to see all of those naughty bits, make sure to check out the manga version. But mostly this entire episode was about Guts' journey into the Cave of the Trolls, where he managed to slaughter all of them with extreme prejudice. And frankly, it looked pretty fucking badass. I absolutely love this episode. This is one of those episodes of Berserk that takes the entire concept and artist imagery, did that make any sense, of the Berserk manga series and actually brought it to life in a way that separated it from the manga version and made it something incredibly awesome all on its own. This is an episode that stands on its own because of how good it looks. This is a terrible review so far, but make sure to stay tuned. It's going to get better. So, the main bulk of this episode consists of Guts going into this troll den to save all of these people from this village which have been ransacked by these trolls. And because Guts is good at what he does, he just completely wrecks them with the power of his fucking Dragon Slayer sword. It looks awesome. They take all of the still imagery of the manga version and they add a lot of amazing motion to it. And it all just explodes on the screen in a flurry of blood and guts. It is fucking metal, my friends. It is really awesome. While all of this is going on, you have Guts' brand new party, which is also traveling through this incredible menagerie of just rape and gore. And Shirke, who is a character who, frankly, I did not care for in the manga version, continues to impress me in the anime version of the series. Not just because of voice acting, but because of the fact that she's a fucking badass. She looks like a stereotypical, super cutesy anime character, but she actually comes across as this incredibly competent and super badass character as she is able to conjure all of this incredible magic, actually being able to sync up with this ground god, which takes the form of this massive rooted creature, and she actually just sets all of these trolls aflame in a scene which, frankly, actually brings real relevance to the CG in the series. It actually feels natural here. It doesn't feel weird and puppet-like, which is something that a lot of people have really been pissed off about in the Berserk anime series, but here it is played to great effect, mostly because it involves a lot of supernatural creatures. The reason I say this is because a lot of the times CG and anime don't mix. A lot of that is because a lot of the characters are very human looking, and when you see them moving with the CG animation, they look like goddamn Jim Henson puppets. They just don't look realistic. But when you actually see the monsters, the supernatural creatures moving, you actually believe that they are real because there are things that you cannot actually believe that are tangible in real life. They move in a way that you can't possibly comprehend, and that makes them seem all the more scary. And that ultimately leads to what is probably the best scene of this week's episode, where we finally get to see the return of Slan, the whore princess of the Uterine Sea, which is arguably the most badass line from this week's episode of Berserk, which is, of course, delivered by the most badass character of the series, the goddamn Skull Knight. This character is another one of those characters from the series that benefits from CGI animation. The fact that he is all chromed out just looks so damn awesome. And the fact that he's there to actually coach Guts in his crusade against these disgusting apostle creatures. Now, of course, the return of Slan is a very big moment for the series, and they make it very clear that, like Griffith, he does not have the ability to actually return to a tangible form. So she actually takes the form of all of these fallen troll soldiers which have been killed by Guts. She actually manifests herself in this massive form of guts and entrails and nasty shit, and it looks really damn awesome. This is one of those scenes that benefits from animation, from the color to the movement of her hair, just to the way her fucking boobies bounce. It's absolutely insane. It totally plays to everything that is unique about this character. The fact that she comes across as incredibly disturbing, but also at the same time, she kind of gives you a rocking boner. But this boner does not work for Guts, because he is pissed the fuck off. He's reminded that these are the people that took his friends, his family, and took them into this ridiculous situation where they were all murdered in front of his eyes, and this just fuels his intense rage, and this is all played out so damn well in the animation. There's a lot of scenes in this episode which I dare say are iconic. These are scenes that when you see them in the manga version, you're always going to remember them. Scenes that are as simple as just seeing the seething rage within Guts' face are translated so well into this episode, and you can feel every single ounce of his anger when he is attacking Slan, which ultimately doesn't really result in anything. He attacks her, he stabs her with a dragon sword, and nothing fucking happens. In fact, she actually gets off on all of this. She seems to be enjoying every single ounce of pain, as if it is something that is completely pleasurable to her. She's an absolute sadomasochist, and that makes her one of the most terrifying characters from the entire series. To make matters worse, all of Guts' party is being attacked by all of these trolls, left and right, popping out from crevices, being incredibly scary. And you have characters like Shirke and Isidro who are using their brand new weapons to desperately fight off this massive force, and the odds are clearly against them in this scene, and it's going to have you at the edge of your seat the entire time, yet they still manage to overcome. Isidro is awesome in this episode. He's a character who truly comes into his own in this one. He started out as sort of like this annoying ward, this sidekick, if you will, the Robin to Batman. In this one, he fully evolves into the Nightwing of the series when he attacks the leader of the trolls, not only with his magical enhanced sword, but also with that incredibly badass elven one that was given to him by Morgan in the previous episodes. It's satisfying as hell, and it's animated incredibly well. But the cherry on top of this kick-ass sundae has got to be Shirke, a character who continues to surprise me in this entire series. She's someone that I didn't care for in the manga version, but now that she has a voice, now that she has animation, she truly comes to life in this series. She's no longer just the token witch sidekick of the series. She's an absolute badass. I'd say she is on par with Guts in terms of the abilities that she can pull off by actually like fusing her mind with this massive freaking ground god and taking on all of these trolls and just burning them alive. It's just fucking incredible, to be perfectly honest. And yet, this is still not the cream of the veritable crop of this fucking episode. It's all about Guts when he finally destroys Slan. He actually manages to basically thrust right through her with his massive Dragon Slayer sword, and it doesn't defeat her. In fact, she's actually happy at the prospect of this, and then she suddenly disappears. And then that's when the Skull Knight comes in, and he does something that just makes you go, what the fuck is actually happening? He takes this ridiculous sword out, he shoves it down his throat, he pulls it out, and suddenly the sword has transformed into the Sword of Actuation. A name which makes no goddamn sense, but damn does it look awesome. Basically, his sword has transformed into like a combination of a sword and the Crimson Behilets. And unlike the manga version, again, this is a scene that benefits from animation, as you actually get to see the sword in motion. You get to see the twitching eyeballs and all of the crazy veins all over the sword just pulsating. It's so disgusting and crazy. And weirdly enough, this sword has the ability to actually open up fucking holes in the space-time continuum. Makes sense? It fucking shouldn't, but it's fucking awesome looking when you actually see it, which is why this episode is just so damned inviting. And it all ends with both Guts and the Skull Knight making this amazing exit from this troll den of doom. And damned if it's not one of the greatest things that I've seen from this brand new adaptation of Berserk, which, if you were ever on the fence about this series, if you didn't like the animation, you didn't like the pacing, you didn't like the storytelling, this scene brings the series to life. And honestly, it was an absolute feast for the eyes. And as if that is not enough, it ends with a scene that actually gives me the goddamn feels, which is something that the Berserk series does not do. This is a series which is mired in its extreme, just extremities, if that makes any goddamn sense. It's so fucked up half the time. It's like Game of Thrones times 10, and it all ends with Guts seeing his brand new friends, being reminded of the Band of Hawk, and realizing that he's not alone in this journey. He has a brand new family, and he has to protect them, and he's going to do that with everything that he has. And he's going to run into some brand new shit in the next episode, which is going to be all about the introduction of the Berserker armor, which is something that I know all fans have been waiting for, and I have been rambling from this entire review, so what the fuck is the rundown on this week's episode of Berserk? It's fucking badass. What more do you want me to say? It was done with gusto. It was done justice with the manga. Not only did they manage to replicate the actual manga artwork, but they managed to amplify it with incredible animation and some amazing music and voice work. I'm glad that we're finally getting some good music in the series that reminds me of the original Berserk series from the 1990s. It adds a lot of atmosphere to the series, and frankly, it just makes everything seem epic. But the most important part of this episode is certainly Guts' journey, where the first half of the episode is all about his intense rage, and the second part of the episode is all about him accepting the fact that he's not in this alone, and he has people that are going to be there to help him on his incredibly intense journey. I am slightly disappointed by the fact that this episode was heavily censored. The manga version is not censored at all. It is incredibly graphic, but then again, this is something that airs on Japanese television and late night, so of course they're going to have to cut some corners. However, it's one of those edits where you realize when you pick up the DVD or the Blu-ray version of the series, it is going to be completely uncut, so you're going to be able to see all of those juicy-ass nasty bits. And frankly, my friends, this episode was filled with them. Not only that, but Guts was not the only star of the episode. You had characters like Farnace, who actually managed to come into her own in this episode, realizing that her role in the series is to be the protector of Casca. While she might be as incredible as a warrior as Casca, she manages to put her life on the line, limb after limb, and fight against these army of trolls who still manage to be incredibly terrifying, and a lot of that is owed to the incredible artwork of this week's episode. What more can I say? This was the first episode of the series that I honestly think did justice to the Berserk series 100%. This is an episode to me that featured some imagery that was on par with the Eclipse from the movie versions, from the manga version, from the 90s anime. This is an episode that was made for fans of the series, and it's an absolute reason to check out this week's episode. So I'm sure none of this made any goddamn sense to you guys, but basically what I'm trying to say is this week's episode was metal as shit. So my thoughts on the episode are, I have no complaints with it. I watched it. I was fully entertained by the episode. I had no complaints about it, even with some of the weird spotty CG animation, which is why I'm going to give this week's episode a solid 5 out of 5. Check it out, Berserk fans. But most importantly, I want to hear from you guys. Make sure to tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Berserk in the comments section below. Did you guys like this episode as much as me? Did you not like this episode? Did you have a favorite scene, a favorite character moment, a favorite development from some of the characters? Are you excited to see the Berserker armor in the next week's episode? Make sure to tell me. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for all things Berserk anime related. Make sure again to leave me a comment telling me what you thought about this episode. I'm always down for a good conversation. And of course, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I will see you guys next time. And as always, I swear to Drunk, I'm not God. I'm not feeling this one. I'm not gonna lie. We need a cut.
It was pretty good.
I'm way too drunk for this, more than I even possibly imagine.
You were doing awesome, bro.
Yeah.
Let's just wrap it up. Just be like, so overall, I thought that
These guys.
No, you need to finish the synopsis with the Skull King.
I've been talking for less than a minute, and we want to wrap it up. Are you kidding me?
That was less than a minute.
Not wrap it up. You need to mention the Skull Knight coming in. And you need to mention what's this dude having that baller fight with the fire saber. And then you need to mention the witch being able to cast the earth spell.
The Earth spell. The Avatar bullshit. Okay,